Hi, my name is Gabrielle McClellan. Thank you for coming to our presentations. I'm excited to share with y'all some of our reflections from this year. So, first off, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. There's little me with a cup of sand. I'm from Fremont, Nebraska. I attended Union University where I got my degree in English and theology. My time at Union was formative and impacted every aspect of my life. As I've been reflecting on these last 4 years, and then into these 9 months, I've seen one theme that's carried through my time at Union and then into my fellows, and that has been my love of stories. So, I didn't think that the fellows would deepen that love or worldview, but it did. I've learned so much by viewing not only the Bible, but my vocation, my community, and my life as a story that God is authoring and I get to step into. So I'm going to dive into some of my reflections from this year. When I graduated college, I wanted a career, not a vocation. More importantly, I wanted to know what the right career path looked like. I thought I wanted to go to seminary, and I thought I wanted to get a master's in mental health counseling. I wanted to come alongside individuals and help through listening and giving practical tools. My interest was in families who are in ministry since I grew up as a pastor's daughter. I saw firsthand the trauma that families in ministry experienced, and I wanted to help. But I couldn't get rid of this nagging feeling that maybe that wasn't the right path. Turns out it wasn't necessarily the job, it was how I was viewing where and how it should work. I also felt suffocated by this narrow path that I thought I had to tread to get the perfect job. When I came into the program, I wanted to redefine my career. With the help of Tim Keller and Lane Ford, I swapped out my desire for career with a desire for vocation. While a career seemed like a narrow path, Lane introduced a vocation as a long, beautiful hike that will change and branch off into different trails, and we are invited to explore. I love the holistic view of vocation. Vocation wasn't just a job I worked Monday through Friday, it was a calling that God placed on my life. My Monday through Friday job is just one of those callings. Tim Keller said, "A job is a vocation only if someone else calls you to do it for them rather than for yourself." And so our work can be a calling only if it is reimagined as a mission of service into something beyond merely our own interests. Thinking of work mainly as a means of self-fulfillment and self-realization slowly crushes a person. These words have challenged me in my current job. I came into the program open-ish to whatever job the Lord had for me, but I can honestly tell you I didn't expect to end up at the Chattanooga Design Studio. I interviewed with David Chalker and Eric Myers one day in August and found myself sitting in the studio's downtown office 1 month later. I was surrounded by drafting tables, lots of maps, bookshelves full of city plans, and authors I had never heard of. My anchor was Eric Jacobson, author of Sidewalks to the Kingdom. His book changed my perspective on the kind of work the design studio was doing. I walked into my job in the studio with the truth that when Jesus comes back, he's coming back to redeem a city. Throughout my 9 months with the studio, I saw beauty in ways I had never been trained to see. I met people and learned about jobs I didn't know existed, and I found myself growing passionate about the work the studio was doing. Eric, David, Patricia, Jack, and Gus were and are doing the worthwhile work of looking deeply at our spaces and asking the important questions. Not like, can I park lots of cars here? But how can people move in this space? How are people living? What is this space communicating, and who is it welcoming? They were practicing hospitality in a way I had never seen before. They were embodying patience and awareness to the stories that shape the spaces we are in, and ponder on how to move forward while honoring these spaces that symbolize and hold deep pain and injustice, and sometimes at the same time, deep joy and redemption. I was quickly comforted by the fact that I didn't have to create work at the studio. There was already work being done. I had to learn how to enter and to serve as best as I could. Plus, when you work at the studio, well, when you work with Jack, this is what you walk away with, masterpieces like this. These are our 80s glamour shots. I think I would have had great 80s hair, I'll say it. I'm excited to say that I am staying on at the studio as a contract freelance writer and communications specialist. I'm looking forward to continuing to tell the stories that come from the studio. Also through the studio, I met Tangela Johnson, a strategic planner. She helped our office think through the next couple years and define in tangible ways how we communicate our vision and how to serve Chattanooga. I will be working with her book and website. I can't wait to see what these next few weeks bring. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about faith. So coming into Fellows, I didn't really know what to expect when it came to the faith aspect of the program. At Union, I had a local church family that I loved and experienced unique growth there. I still grieve the loss of my All Saints family, but it has been beautiful to see the seeds that were planted at All Saints have grown in Chattanooga, especially in the area of my practices and postures. I have always felt like someone who is skeptical and spiritually allergic to emotional highs during worship. I didn't trust mountaintop experiences. This year, we were introduced to habits that don't necessarily produce a spiritual high, but invite deeper communion with the Father. Part of encouraging deep communion is putting myself in postures of stillness and open-handedness. The habits I form are nothing but anxiety-induced grasp for control when they aren't centered around trust that is rooted in love. Open-handedness has been an image that has stuck with me for the past few months. I remember one of my aunts telling me the time she held me as a baby. She said my little hands were clenched into fists and she would have to rub my forearms until I relaxed and released. Nothing much has changed since then. My aunt no longer holds me. I still find myself physically clenching my fists when I'm anxious or frustrated or sad. It's become such a habit that I have nail marks on my palms. It wasn't until our retreat at the Chattanooga House of Prayer that I realized the depth of this habit. Physically, mentally, and spiritually, I ball up my fist, wanting to hold my life in my own hands, thinking of somehow the nail marks on my own palms will replace the nail marks that are on my Savior's palms. This is not a new posture for Christians. In the Old Testament, we hear story after story of God's people clenching their fists and shaking them towards heaven. They believe they are abandoned, forgotten, cheated, and abused. But this is proven wrong when we come to the cross. Jesus accepts his Father's will with open hands, and it's those same hands that lovingly rub our forearms until we release and trust. This year, I have tried different practices that encourage open-handedness and stillness. When I pray with my hands open as a reminder to offer everything to the Lord. To quiet my mind and my heart, I turn off my phone for an hour in the morning and an hour during my work day. When I do devotions in the morning, I sit outside and feel myself enter into a big world. I hope to experiment with more habits as time goes on, but right now I'm trying to focus on just a few practices I feel the Lord calling me into. An important part of these practices is doing them in community. This year, I experienced a diverse span of community. Whether it was through fellows, friends, coworkers, or host family, they all looked different. Some of my relationships were hard and felt like a constant struggle, and some felt like a haven. Most were in the middle. I felt the power of community to recalibrate and recenter our identities. This is not always a comfortable way. Most times it's through hard conversations and situations that reveal just how fallen and in need of grace we are. I've learned that a healthy community doesn't stay in those spaces of fallenness for too long. We confess, forgive, and speak grace over the people who have hurt us. This is not a clean, time-efficient process, to my disappointment. There has to be grace, patience, discernment, and a willingness to enter into vulnerability time and time again. I'm especially thankful for my host family, Rob and Mary Alice. Mary Alice has sat on the floor with me countless times. listening, asking questions, and loving me well, even when I showed the uglier parts of myself. Rob was there with ice cream or crackers and an encouraging word. Their generosity and hospitality did not stop at the space they shared. It extended in generosity of time, energy, patience, and wisdom. I would argue those are much more valuable than space. As I was preparing for this, it was hard not to wrap this in a pretty bow and present it like it was easy and straightforward, and that I have it all figured out. It was a hard 9 months. There are a few times that I wondered why I was in the program and why I was in Chattanooga. There was a lot of struggle. But after sitting with the harder parts of this year, I was struck by the beauty that shone through it all. So here are some of the beautiful moments of my year, but they weren't beautiful because they were easy. So we had the opportunity to go on a lot of really great retreats, and we have McKenna in Florida, back in her home country. We have Grace trying boba and hating it. We had the opportunity to go and be with Gracie's family in Nashville. It was a really sweet time. We had really great classes with a lot of really great professors. One of my favorites was with Liz. She walked through To Be Told by Dan Allender, and she read a child's book that made the majority of us cry. And then some really great B-reels. I had the opportunity to work with the New City toddlers for Sunday school. And so I really enjoyed each Sunday seeing their perspective, seeing their questions. It was really humbling because a little kid named Ben never failed to tell me how I looked old on the Sundays I wasn't wearing makeup. So that was cool. But it was a sweet season of seeing how God works in the hearts of children. Their curiosity invited me to dive deeper into Bible stories that seem simple. Their questions about God, themselves, and boogers will always stand out to me. I've also gotten a chance to hang out with the Ingram kids this semester. I was amazed at their joy and their sweetness and the pure talent of getting out of bedtime. Really good at that. I've enjoyed getting to know each of them and their personalities, and I just love holding babies, so that was sweet. And the design studio. I was hoping to use the Fellows year as a break from the academic world, and I was worried that I would stop having the opportunity to learn. The studio proved me wrong in that. I had the opportunity to learn new things every time I walked into the office. Whether it was about the city, communications, or urban design, I learned a lot. My favorite part was the friendships I have with my coworkers. Whether it's Jack coming into the intern lab with some kind of story or eating Publix cupcakes, I got to know my coworkers as people and friends. Ooh. Let's see. I have a family slide somewhere, but it didn't make it, I guess. Maybe it got moved around. I don't know. But I also have a family slide that somehow got deleted, so that's fun. So family. I got to know Rob and Mary Alice more. So they have become my Chattanooga family, and Cho, who is a land seal, I swear. She also, where am I? Here we go, okay. There are also lots of exciting things that happened with my family this year. I got to see my brother graduate from Air Force. It was a gift to see him graduate and be passionate about his work. He also visited Chattanooga before he went to basic. And then last but not least, I got engaged, or as Peter says, engaged. I'm extremely grateful for Eli and the person he is, and I can't wait for October 8th. These are only a few highlights from my year. These are memories that have grounded me and acted as markers of God's goodness and faithfulness. So to wrap up, I would love to read a blessing as a closing to this season. The Fellows are not the only ones who have had transitions and changes in the past 9 months. We just get to talk about it. Each of you embodies a story, and each of you have experienced lots of things in the last month. I hope this can be a blessing to your last 9 months, whatever it's brought. So you're welcome to open your hands and close your eyes if you want, whatever you want. May the Lord bless you and keep you in moments of deep grief and in moments of profound joy. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you, even when you don't feel worthy. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. From this time forth and forevermore. Amen. Thank you for listening.